welcome to Aura Talks.
Hi everyone, we are at episode 3 on Aura Talks. Kshitij unfortunately cannot be with us in video due to an unreliable connection in India, but he's luckily with us in spirit and in audio. Say hello, Kshitij.
Hey everyone, good evening from India.
Good evening from India. And I'm also very delighted to have with us today Andras, a very dear friend of mine from high school who has been working as a software engineer for the past few years. And one of the many reasons why I wanted to invite him today was to really dive into the topic of digitalization. So has the COVID-19 lockdown time forced people to be more digitalization pro? Or in relation to the Aura project, since we're dealing with a virtual platform, dealing with a virtual currency, are people more open to adopting digital currency? So before we dive deep, I want to give a very short introduction about Andras. So after attending high school together at Nelson Mandela in Berlin, he went to Holland to pursue a degree in mathematics and artificial intelligence. But after a couple of years, he decided to drop out because he thought that academia is not for him. And he decided to pursue a full-time career in software engineering, being a developer. So I think it's really great today that Andras and Kshitij, who both come from a more technical background, who have developed several projects of their own, to really dive deep into this discussion. So thank you both for being here today, guys.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us.
All right, Andras, so the last time we talked, you were just telling me that you've been working on a restaurant reservation system. So basically you would have in a restaurant a QR code on each table, and this QR code would of course be unique to the table. And upon scanning it, the user would be led to an application where he or she can order in-house, so you can eat on the facility or take away. And of course, you can also pay in the restaurant, right? So I wanted to ask, how did this project begin? Like, what was the initial drive or ideation process behind this?
So the project actually started out quite differently. In the beginning, it was more of a solution for festival payments because our company was approached by a festival organizing company who wanted to replace their plastic coin system at their festival with an electronic payment system because they believe that on the long run it's beneficial in many ways because people don't have to stand in line to get tokens, people don't lose their tokens. Also, there's handling costs involved with all those tokens as well, and organization costs. So they wanted to simplify the whole process. So that's where we came into the picture. But then there were some issues for them in the company, so we parted ways. And then we started looking into the restaurant market and what can we do there. And we talked to multiple restaurants to identify a couple of issues that they have with their current systems in-house, particularly with the delivery systems. So one of the things that they told us is that currently there is no solution on the market that has on-location payments. So all the delivery applications only focus on delivering to your home, but not on locations, which in a lot of cases, especially for restaurants that have a big open space terrace, that would be really helpful because they would reduce the service costs and so on, and just a lot less payment that they have to deal with. And this turned out to be really handy for the COVID-19 situation because there will be a lot of new regulations introduced for the restaurants. Even when they are allowed to open, they have to sit certain meters apart and so on. So this reduces contact with staff and other people a great deal. So we were really fortunate.
Wow, thank you for that thorough overview of your project. Very interesting and very relevant to today's times. I think it's interesting to note that all of us on this call are very fortunate to be pursuing a job which is still in demand or which is still relevant despite the circumstances that we're in. As everyone knows, COVID-19 has led to the biggest displacement of jobs in modern history. So the fact that we are still employed and able to pursue something that we're interested in and that has relevance, I think we should all be very grateful. So Andras, you were saying that the project is obviously, we're talking a lot about contactless payments, a lot of digital modes of payment. So I want to address this question to both you and Kshitij. So what is your personal opinion on this movement and trend that we're seeing from physical currency, aka cash, to digital currency?
For me, digital currency obviously has a lot of advantages because of ease of use, and just you don't have to carry around bills or coins. Cash is used a lot in the illegal sector because it's not very traceable method. So eradicating as much as possible would also help, I guess, with lessening illegal activities.
Yeah. What about you, Kshitij? What are your some of your personal thoughts on this?
So living in India with the unified payment interface, which was introduced recently here, I think I haven't used cash in entire COVID situation. And I really feel like this new method of digital payment, aka with the QR codes, basically, I would say, like now all the shops everywhere around us, they have these QR codes, and we can use this unified payment system and directly link to our bank accounts, and we can make a transfer directly. At least it works in some context of saving us from, like, I think that's one of the biggest reason why it didn't spread as heavily in our region, because we had all these unified payment interfaces, and even for our emergencies, we were not doing cash transactions. And Auroville has always preferred doing cashless. So we always had our FS accounts and everything. So it was always more or less digital. So I really feel like this digital way of payment will be the future, because I've been living without cash for the entire pandemic situation. So like for the entire lockdown of 50 plus days, I didn't have cash, but I also didn't need cash. The need was eliminated by the way of unified payment interfaces that are working in India. Like we have lots of apps supporting the QR code based payment systems, and if I have to buy something, groceries or some emergency items, I can just that actually helped me be more stable in my health, because I have a low immunity, and if it was a situation like any kind of transactions were happening where the exchange happens by hand, it is quite a possibility that it can lead to some disastrous situations as well. So this was a very beautiful time to think about the digital currency. Like, although we are in a very bad situation worldwide, but in a way, we are moving towards a brighter future, you can say, with the digital payments. And in the context of Auroville as well, with the Aura, I think if we go forward with the Aura and how we are planning to go, like how we will move forward with the QRs as we talked in the season episode 1, if that comes up in play, I think we will be in a very fancy digital world. Which will help us be safe and be secure, and also not to worry about carrying cash or going to the ATM, which is one of the biggest pain in Auroville. Living in Auroville, going to ATM is one of the, there's always a queue because we only have limited ATMs. It's kind of a task to get the cash. I think unified payment interface will really help us in the digital currency is the way forward.
Yeah. Thank you for both your perspectives. I really agree wholeheartedly that digital currency is definitely the next step forward. I mean, ubiquitously, I believe. Also, one thing we haven't yet mentioned about cash is that apart from spreading disease, because just think about how many people touch this one coin or one note in a single day. It's actually unfathomable. But on top of that, we also have the situation where governments have to invest a significant amount of money to regulate cash when it comes to printing of notes, printing of coins, and also regulating that there's no duplicates or illegal duplicates in circulation. So to eliminate that altogether, I think it's already one huge obvious advantage of digital currency. One thing I wanted to ask you, Andras, which I found very interesting when I visited you guys often in Holland, was the huge difference in adoption rates and perception of contactless payments and digital currency, let's say in Holland versus in Germany. So Holland and Germany, for those who don't know, are neighboring countries in Europe, which is considered a very developed part of the world. But funny enough, Germany has this strong preference towards cash. There's so many shops that still do not accept cash. And if they do accept card payment, it has to be above a minimum threshold of, let's say, 10 to 15 euros. But we don't see that at all in Holland. In Holland, everyone pays with card or smart device. So why do you think there is this discrepancy in adoption rates between these neighboring countries?
When you think about why Germany would be so resistant to adopt a very wide card acceptance, is maybe you think about their traditions, or I think Europeans in general are more inclined to question, okay, so where is all my data going? All these payment institutions and banks are going to have all my data. Is it secure? Is it immune to hacking? Am I just going to lose all my money if someone hacks the bank? And so on and so on. So I think they just ask a lot more questions. And I think that in the Netherlands, they kind of accepted that this no escaping in this. So they just fully embraced it and started to have a very high spread of these methods. For example, public transport is also works on this universal system where you have this card, which works everywhere, and you just check in, check out. You don't have to buy tickets. There is no money. Basically, you just upload money to this card, and then this card you can use everywhere in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, even if you talk about cash, like how do you get cash? You go to the ATM, you take out cash, and then you carry it somewhere where you pay for something, and then it will be reverted back to also a bank account, so a digital number, because the shop probably also wants to put it on their bank account. So basically, what you're doing is when you take out money from the ATM, you convert the digital currency into physical form, and then the shop converts it back. So just a transporter of money. And in that, so actually money is already digitalized. So if you have reservations about is it secure? Well, it is already what it is. So you cannot really do too much.
Yeah, I have never really thought about it like that. So thanks for putting some perspective, because I always think of cash, whether if you pay in cash, they always take cash into a vault, and there's always like everything is in cash. But you're 100% right. All of these accounting is done in digital form. So why are we so reluctant, or why are we so insistent on still having this physical form, when in fact it's quite still, why can't we just remove that conversion step altogether? From like digital to physical to back to digital. That's what you're saying, right, Andras?
Yes.
So, Kshitij, I wanted to ask you, because Andras just mentioned that in Holland, people were pretty accepting towards digital currency, or let's say contactless methods of payment. And for me, I left India during my teens, and there was a 5 to 6 year gap before I returned again. And during this period that I was away, there was so much advancement when it came to contactless payments. Let's say Paytm first comes to mind. why do you think there was this rapid advancement in this payment or digital currency or digital modes of payment in India?
I really believe that it has something to do with the introduction of this 4G network. In India, we were like, I say 5 years ago, we were really, really limited with the network capabilities of a mobile phone. Like mobile networks were really, really limited. But with the introduction of semi-moderate speeds of internet, now we saw this emerging boom of it was not unified payment interface at first, but Paytm came up with like their own Paytm wallet, and then a lot of other apps started coming up. So the app market, obviously, India has always been a hub for the development sector. Like IT has always been one of the economic fortes of India. We have really good developers over here, and it was kind of going out of India, like we were exporting these kind of services. But now, when we realize that in India we have potential with the network capabilities, we have potential with people using the mobile phone. Like right now, India is literally I think China would be the first, but India literally with the population using a mobile phone is the highest number, I guess. We really put our efforts in the digitalization with the mobile phones and semi-moderate internet speeds. Like today, like we can see, it's not really that great as of now. I'm having some issues with my video because my bandwidth is not good enough. But still, it's if I have to make a payment, I really don't need that much of bandwidth, but I just have to go scan the QR code and make the payment, and it consumes little to no mobile network coverage. And I think that is the main cause why in India we have such a surge. And also, we love free stuff, when these apps they were like distributing free items, like, oh, you buy one item and then you get this thing. So yeah, that actually helps in India a lot. So
yeah. No, I really like the point that you made about India being a pretty tech savvy country in general, in terms of like Indian people are very, very familiar with devices, I think smart devices in general, where in fact, I think a lot of people outside of India perceive India to be still a very third world developing country that is like so decades behind. But when you actually go to India, you are astounded to see how like tech savvy people are. But let's now just zoom into Auroville as a community for a moment, because one thing when I joined the Aura project, I was a bit reluctant because I saw growing up in that community that people had quite an aversion to technology, because I would hear often, oh, Wi-Fi causes cancer, Wi-Fi has terrible implications for health, mental health and physical health. So we don't want to have smartphones being the extension of our arm. We don't want smartphones to be the main tool that facilitates a lot of transactions or interactions, right? So do you think, Kshitij, because you are in Auroville and you've been living there for a few years, that this would be a hindrance, this aversion to technology would be a hindrance to people really widely accepting this platform in Auroville?
So initially, when we were like looking into the surveys of the community, and there were some people who had this kind of concern, oh, I don't use a smartphone because it causes this problem, it causes that problem. But so far, actually, we really don't have any scientific data to back this information. It's just like how you say Earth is flat. I mean, there is a scientific data to back up that it's not, but there is no scientific data to back up it is. Right. Yes. So there are people who still believe that Earth is flat, and I would compare people who are living in the world of non-digitalized, radiation-free zone and this kind of mental space. They are very few in numbers, so they will never adopt. Like we are not there to convince them that it is good or bad. There is no concept of good or bad in our platform. It's just a platform for people to use and people to move forward in future, not get stuck in one place and not look at things with the perspective, oh, it is good for my health, not be on the smartphone world, to avoid the internet, avoid everything. Yeah. I mean, it is because of the internet that we right now, during the COVID also, like the world is at a standstill, but we are united. That's a very big positive thing from the internet. So I think that's one of the ways things will move forward. So it will not hinder the adaptation of the platform. Like just like B said in our first episode, this is the way of moving forward. We have to move out of the cash-based economic reforms and move towards more digital platforms.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Kshitij. I think this would be a perfect gateway to just elaborating further to Andras what we're doing with the Aura platform. So from my perspective, there are a lot of apps that try to cater to a consumer being a person who wants to consume something, who has a certain income that wants to obviously use it to buy something, right? And it is great because obviously if you have apps which you can consume easier and better and faster, it saves a lot of time and it's much convenient, right? Platforms like Amazon, you have an umbrella of so many different retailers. Instead of having a catalog of 10 different products, you have 100 that you can choose from. So of course it's a lot of benefit, but that's not exactly what we're going for, Kshitij, right? First of all, this is not a commercial platform. It's not a consumer-based platform. It's a platform that has created a new virtual currency that could really encourage people to act more socially, act more collectivistically, and also have this currency be a means to circulate underutilized resources, be it human talent, be it space, be it also underutilized items and tangible goods. So the way I make a distinction between, let's say, an app like eBay, which would be like, okay, still it is catering to a consumer who wants to get a secondhand or like a cheap good, to, let's say, the Aura platform, is that the Aura platform is not consumer-based, but more so sharing-based and circulation-based. So the distinction in terms of behavior aspect is that here on a lot of apps, I think you're also promoting or tapping into this idea of mindless consumption, that people, when they have the income, they just want to get whatever they want without really going through a conscious process of, do I need this? Do I not need this? As opposed to on the Aura platform, I think we are taking a different approach with mindful, right? Mindful sharing, mindful co-creating, mindful co-creating, that would be it. So I want to ask you both, from a developer perspective, because I really see developers to be a creative inventor, like a creative digital inventor, right? Who creates not a physical architecture, but a digital architecture that really could host a lot of people. So how do you think, from an app design perspective, you could really make certain changes to like promote this kind of platform?
Well, if you think about what technology started out as, what computers started out as, I mean, it's embedded the name computer, computing. It basically, the only purpose of a computer was to calculate pre-automated equations that you wanted to calculate, so it made it faster. So I think that's what ultimately technology should be, just automating very manual labor or bureaucratic labor, any labor, to be honest. So basically, for me, technology should be that you give as little input as possible. So you spend as little time interacting with the computer as possible. You give input that I want this, and this to be done. The computer does it with an automated system, and you just go back a certain time later and you have your results. For example, lawyers can use computers to process documents, identify certain points that are important on those legal documents, so they don't have to read thousands of pages of legal jargon and stuff like that. Doctors can help, computers can help doctors perform certain regular surgeries and so on, or identify based on symptoms certain sicknesses and stuff like that. So at the end, people need to work less and spend more time doing what they actually want, like doing sports, reading books, learning something, or going outside, meeting people, socializing. So for me, that would be the ideal future of technology, and not making the user spend as much time on your platform as possible. but spending as little as possible while solving some kind of problem.
So, Andras, just before I let Kshitij elaborate, just to touch upon the points that you made. So I agree with you that technology is a tool, like everything in life, to make life better or improve the quality of life, right? But what I often see is that technology, yes, frees up a lot of time because there's efficiency. Like you said, computing leads to efficiency. But what do people do with this free time is still something we haven't yet discussed as a society. Because let's say when we're now making a distinction between consumer-based apps versus, let's say, sharing or like mindful apps like the one that we're trying to create, how do we still encourage people to like use their free time that they have through like other technologies, through just automation and efficiency, to really give back and to really just take care of other people's needs instead of only taking care of one's own individual needs? So just as a remark, but Kshitij, could you please also elaborate on your thoughts about this?
Yeah, so this reminded me of one book that I read a few years ago. It's from Don Norman about design of everyday things. I don't know if you guys have heard of this book, but Don Norman is like the expert of user experiences. And the most important thing that he says in terms of design and development of an app or any system that a human will interact with, it has to reduce the efforts and time. It has to make sure, like the way the wheel was invented to reduce the efforts of a human in movement. And it did reduce, but actually like we have to really look deep into the point that you made of what we do with the free time. So when we made the wheel, I don't know throughout the years what we did, but we did create a lot of free time for us. And we just got occupied in making more of not of the social needs, or not looking into the depths of what a human can achieve with the free time, what we can put our head into, but we just kept on, I have free time, I should get one more project and I will have more economic stability.
Exactly.
So instead of getting into that, we should with our platform, this is what we are trying to achieve, is to give back to the community. If you have free time, figure out, maybe you can read a book with a friend now. You have free time, you can go to the beach with your people and create an activity instead of just making an app for transaction. This is what Aura is about. Like, this is where we are moving forward also. Like, we will have the activity session where you can just post an activity that you are going to do, and you just take more people with you and create a social gathering. Be more open. This is what the other part of the Aura, the social part of the Aura, which we are developing, which we haven't discussed yet in the very strong sense, is that's what it is about. We are saving your time in the economic transaction and then giving you a social aspect to live with.
Yes.
And so that's where it will go forward. Yeah.
So just to recapitulate what Andras and Kshitij said, it's interesting that, yes, we all agree on this call that technology is meant to increase or improve the quality of life by freeing up time. But what I see often with big tech companies, so yes, they do provide convenience and comfort for their consumers, for their users, right? But then at the same time, they also invest an incredible amount of effort to make sure that with the free time that they have, they're going to be hooked back onto this virtual platform or onto this virtual reality. So Facebook or any social media platform, they dedicate hours and hours and dedicate millions and millions to research how they can hook back users in. So then there's this irony, right? So what we're really trying to do with the Aura platform is like what you said, Andras. What you envision for this world is that with technology, people will have more time. People will have to work less due to automation and machine learning and whatnot. And that with that, they can actually self-actualize, whether it be through activities or through sports or through interacting with others. And that's exactly what we are envisioning for this platform. But then how do we create an app that doesn't hook for example, we're also going to incorporate social media features into this to allow user chatting features and to see user profiles and whatnot. But how do we ensure that they're not going to always just be hooked on to this platform? Kshitij, do you understand what I mean? In the sense that I do see this this negative cycle oftentimes. It's like, yes, you have more time, but what do you do with the time? You use it on these apps, and you're not actually in virtual reality interacting with your friends or with your community members.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying about the activity field and other types of the social aspects that we are incorporating in the app. So it's not gonna be like a social media where you're gonna post your videos and photos and wait for people to like it and get a social justification for your existence, but rather than that, get an actual meeting happening. Like for example, that I was taking the example of the beach. Like we did have this on our platform. Like some young people, they made, it was pre-COVID, so we could go to the beach that time. But anyway, so the idea was that we can create a platform where people actually socialize with the technology. So getting the message out is very difficult when a society grows bigger. Like when you only have 12, 14, 15 people in your group, you can create a WhatsApp group, you can create a Facebook group, and make your hangout plans. But what you do when you have a community of 3,000 plus people and you don't really know everyone, but you feel safe around them?
Yeah.
You invite them for a beach party, like not a party in the sense of what we envision on the television, but party in the sense we go together, we go to the beach, we play frisbee, and we can have all these activities because we are saving time with the digital world that we have created, and we are utilizing it for a social connection rather than wasting it again on creating a social justification system, like how most of the social media apps really are right now. So we are eliminating those factors from our development process. We are not designing, like from the beginning itself, we are not introducing those features as a part of our app. We'll make sure that our app is only for the social human interaction and not for social justification and social self-proving. Okay, I'm really good, I have this. Not validation. Yeah. So that's how we're gonna make this differentiation. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Still a very early stage of the social interaction.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing your thoughts and making this distinction, because I think it's very important. Andras, do you understand a bit more now the distinction that we're trying to make with this kind of platform?
Yeah, although I would try to recommend not to put any social features on the application, because that will imply that you want people to try to interact socially on your platform. So just make it very simple, like you offer a service. The only thing you can do is go get a service, buy, and that's it. Encourage that people meet up in order to exchange those services, and not like no post or whatever. And just to put as little features as you can while making it work is what I'm saying, basically.
Thank you for that feedback, because we're also currently in the design process of understanding what elements of social media would like to introduce to this. So thank you for that, and we'll definitely keep that in mind moving forward. So moving on to a different topic, guys, I had a interesting conversation with my flatmate. She said that as a German, the reason why she really likes cash so much is because for her, when something is legible and tangible and touchable, she can make sense of its value more. So when she has cash and she has certain notes in her wallet, she can control her spending behavior much more so than when she has contactless or everything is online or digital. So it's so she said that also, let's say, when children are learning how to do arithmetics and they are learning basic addition and subtraction, you actually have these figurines that you use. Okay, 5 of these plus 2, how many do you have? You have 7, so you can make sense of it. So I think from a human cognitive perspective, it makes sense that people get attached to physical goods because you can sentimentalize that much more. Right? So on the Aura platform, we're trying to also emphasize the idea, like creating value together. And the value is like obviously being transmitted with a digital currency. So do you think that like people will be able to move away from cash, Kshitij? Because even though Auroville strives to be a cashless society, I think we also undermine the fact that people have some kind of, attachment to physical goods in general.
So generally, we also have attachment to our buckets and our utensils as well at the same time. So taking the example of the mathematical calculation, yes, it does help a child to see that their parents, they're buying some goods, then they add up the value of the goods and then, oh, this is how much I have to pay for it.
Yeah.
But if a child learns from the growing up stage that, oh, I'm going to need this particular product, I only need this much, and to have this much, oh, I have this many auras already with me, and then I can just pay with it. So he is still doing the mathematical calculation because he needs something. So he's this arithmetic calculation of buying a good comes from the need point, not from the point, oh, okay, this much 5 plus 2 and then 7 and then I have to pay 10 rupees, I only have 7. It did came because he wanted something that was of the value of 10 rupees. It didn't come from the value point that, oh, okay, I have this much value and I can make the calculation and I can pay.
Yeah.
So taking that in perspective, we will always be attached to goods. We will always be attached to the learning mechanism that we have created for ourselves. But at the same time, going out of it will require a little bit of patience and a little bit of practice in the beginning. But what if they get used to our platform? Then again, they will just like cash. They become addicted to this one, like the cashless society, and then again we have a problem of, oh, but I am kind of like attached to this. So the attachment will come with the users. We are using cash right now, so we are attached to cash.
Yes.
Start using digital methods. Like I'm kind of attached to digital methods. Like I really don't like going to
Andras
and in the queues. Yeah. So that's how it comes. Like I started using the cashless methods and I got attached to them. So similarly, like, we are attached to cash now. Go down the line, next 5 years, it will not be that much. Like it will be a burden to have the cash in pocket. And you just have one smartphone or just one payment system.
On that point, I'd like to ask Andras, so you've obviously been working with different restaurants. I'm sure you've had some feedback with different companies. And so do you see that there is some pushback for the digitalization of currency? Like, for example, not even currency, but let's say digitalization in general, for example, are like the restaurants that you have approached, are they quick to jump at the opportunity? Well, this application that you've built that also allows in-house ordering and also has integration of like different systems. Are they really much more open to that, or are they showing more reservation?
They're open to digitalization, but not at the cost of complexity. So they, of course, like the goal of any restaurant or actually any business is that they want to automate whatever they can so they spend less time on it. But what actually ends up happening today is that all the restaurants need to use separate services for all of their different uses and needs. One, they, for example, have to use for table reservations when people call. They have to use a separate system for managing their employees. Of course, they have to use a system to manage all the orders inside the restaurant and payments with those orders. Then they use a system for maybe music or a delivery service, and then you end up using 5 or 6 different services, and that's what's overwhelming for them, and that's why they are reluctant to get on board on even more stuff. They are much more inclined if you are able to provide a solution that would replace 3 or 4 of these different applications or software that they have to use for these different functionalities, then they're much more willing to try it out, but not at the expense of adding even more complexity to their current workflow.
Yeah, I mean, just also to comment on that, I always make the example, I'd rather have one app that covers a range of my needs rather than 10 apps that I have to separately download to cover other just specific individual needs. And I always think of WeChat as the incumbent app in China that really caters to the biggest diversity of needs I've ever seen an app do. So WeChat, for people who do not know, is an app in China that allows users to chat with other users, to make reservations to restaurants, book doctor's appointments, book taxi rides. I mean, it's honestly, the range is crazy. And of course, we have something similar in Korea with Kakao Talk and Kakao Corporation, who has managed to really diversify their app from being just a social chatting app to like obviously including taxi, ordering food, teamwork group, like calendar, etc., etc. So I do see that there is a tendency, at least in a lot of Asian countries or Northeast Asian countries, of convergence of apps and convergence of features. So do you, so Andras and Kshitij, from a developer perspective, do you think that's the future? That like there will come a point where there will be one app, maybe global would be a huge step forward, but let's say on a national level, there would be, like in China, an app like WeChat that really covers such a big range of needs. Because even on the Aura platform, we're trying to cover different needs. We're not only covering the need to transact and like share with each other and like, you know, facilitate these transactions. We're also trying to cover the need for community members to connect with each other. Because even though it is a niche community with only 2,000, 3,000 people, there are still niche, like little corners of the community that never interact. So we have these different needs that we're trying to address, right? So again, in a sense, it is more of an integrated app than, let's say, social media standalone app. So just from, again, going back to my question, Kshitij and Andras, do you think that this is the future, the convergence or the integration of more features in one single umbrella of an app?
Well, I have two answers to that question, basically yes and no, because I believe that there's a great danger in having one corporation or company that controls all of your services, because you have seen it with Facebook as well, that since they have such a monopoly of social media, that they can basically do whatever they want. If they want to push ads, they push ads. If they sell their information, they sell their information. There's very little to stop them because there's no alternative. So I think that in that sense, that's not the way, because if you put all the power into one company's position, that they will eventually abuse that power. But I think where you would see or you should see more integration is having all these software be more willing to share their information with other software. So for example, you make a software and you make all the APIs public to your software so other people can integrate with your software if they want. You see that many places in like fitness applications that you can just connect to your other fitness application. So if it's for you easier to record your activity on one app, then it automatically gets imported in the other app and those kind of things. And what we're also trying to do with our application is that we have agreed with a payment service that's in a lot of restaurants in the Netherlands, so that we can automatically push your orders to the in-house payment system of these restaurants, so you don't have to deal with our system at the time of ordering. But this all required the agreement of this company, because they did not have their APIs public, they did not have their code public. So we had to go personally to this company, get an agreement with this company, send all the documents to us. Some of the documents are not complete. So it's a very tedious method. Instead of having the mindset of whatever you make, you try to make it more accessible to other developers, other companies. And it's very easy for everyone to use your software in their own software.
Yeah, I really agree with that wholeheartedly. And Kshitij, as you know, we also have a couple of niche, I think, digital services, let's say in Auroville. So if Aura platform could, let's say, be more easily integrated or complementary with these services, that would be great. Do you have any thoughts on this, Kshitij?
So I think even though there are corporates that are controlling things by being abusive of power, but I think if we stand with our values, like that's what I stand. I stand for some sort of human unity. Then it's my stand that I'm gonna carry forward in my operations as well, and I'm gonna develop it with that in mind. So Even if we create a system where everything is integrated in one, but also we will create a system which is open. So the very first thought with the Aura, building up the new system, new payment method for Aura and calculation method for Aura was to make a separate microservice which can be given to anyone to integrate. So if, for example, in future, let's just assume some restaurant wants to incorporate auras as their payment method. So we'll be having an open API which they can just integrate, and they will need a very minimum coding efforts, just divert to our platform, and we will share the user base and everything. Like as soon as they want, somebody wants to pay by auras, they can put up their services in our platform, and then they can use it. It's not like we're gonna have to make them download always the app, but that would be the future forward. So that's what I recently started working with this method of clean architecture by Bob Martin. I think it's the name is the author of this book called Clean Architecture. That's what we are following. Yeah. And from the very core mind of developing the app, the idea is to have a sharing platform. Even not just for the people to download the app and share on the app, but the entire app is also shareable. Like it will be an open API that people can plug into their own system.
Yeah.
Because we want people to move to this new digital currency, and that was only possible when it's like pluggable in their own payment methods as well.
Of course. Well, just to encapsulate what we all just discussed right now. So Andras, for you may not be familiar with this, but one of the founding ideals of Auroville as an intentional community was to create unity and diversity. And let me elaborate on what my personal perception of that is. So diversity means that every individual is unique, and even each culture is different. So depending on which culture or which background you're from, you're going to be molded into a specific shape, right? And so we have diversity in any given society, in the world in general. But in Auroville, we're not trying to mold people into one simple shape, saying that, okay, like everyone needs to be this way, but to embrace these differences, this diversity, and create a unity in that. And that really neatly ties into what you and Kshitij are talking about, right? Because you're not promoting one single incumbent app that just does everything for you, but more so in integration or like a complementary, a linking of these different applications in a more seamless way, right? Through the open sharing of APIs, like you said. So I really think, even in the tech sphere, where of course I don't think people are super, super spiritual in tech sphere, I think it's really lovely that we could even align technology to the ideals of Auroville. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, both of you. To conclude this, I just want to ask both of you, because I really have so much admiration for developers and programmers and software engineers, as Andras would like to call himself. So as a digital inventor of things, once my mother told me that it's really important, if you have that much power to create something from nothing, it's important to understand what type of world you want to live in, or what type of world you envision yourself to be. Like, what type of world you want to raise your kids in. So Kshitij, I think Andras already answered that question a little bit early on. He said that he wants technology to free up time, to create that kind of automation and efficiency for people to really have a higher quality of life, right? So Kshitij, in your opinion, what kind of world do you envision as a creator? What type of world would you like to create your services and your applications for?
So I really believe for a world where everything that we are developing ends up raising the consciousness and awareness towards the values as a human, what we stand for. Create a platform where we have, as Andras said, like the time and minimum labor, but at the same time we have a human standpoint. We should not get lost in the digital process of and take away the humanity. Mm-hmm. But I would like to have a digital world where all my social values, all my personal values are integrated, and that's why I feel like creating any kind of a future application or developing a platform, I would be standing with my values, and I would be creating a platform which incorporates those values for others as well, to know, okay, this person has stand in the human space, and it's not going to take away into like dystopian future, like what we have been envisioned by all the science fiction and everything. It's not science fiction. The world that we are developing right now is connected world. Although we feel like there is a very basic thing that people keep telling me about, oh, you are always in the phone, like all the people are getting in the phone. Okay, now it's a phone. Earlier it was a newspaper. There is no difference. When it's a very strong message to say, but there was always something that people were trying to find as an escape. Now we want to create a platform. We want people to not escape but integrate and stand for their value. That's what I'm willing to develop in my digital future.
Wow, that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Kshitij. I think on that very beautiful note, we can conclude this episode. So everyone who's tuning in, I think that we have only a handfuls of people watching this right now. Thank you for tuning in. It really means a lot to us that you invest time to learn more and to, so to speak, go on this journey of exploration with us. Because I'm constantly learning with each Aura Talks or with each week that I spend on this project. I find myself questioning more and embracing more too. So thank you. So as we like to do on Aura Talks, we conclude, Andras, by saying ciao for now. So on 3, we'll say ciao for now and we'll end it. So, Muna, Renda, Una,
ciao for
now.
Aura, the value we create together.